2,000 entitled Muslims plan to take over park for prayer, find nasty surprise. A group of Muslims decided to take over a public park for a massive gathering to celebrate the end of Ramadan. They proudly announced that they would form vast worship rows and blare the call to prayer, disrupting everyone in earshot. However, as soon as they had everything prepared, they were greeted with the nasty surprise that had them quickly cancelling the monumental event entirely. Each year, thousands of Muslims gather in the Southampton park to celebrate Eid-al-Fitr, a glorious feast signifying the end of Ramadan's daytime fasts. Endless rows of worshippers fill the public grounds as they declare that Allah is greater than any god and their religion is superior to British law. Unfortunately for them, angry Britons decided to hold an event of their own to welcome Sharia-loving migrants to Western equality. Around 2,000 Muslims were expected to gather in East Park, Southampton on July 4th and 5th, but all of that is history thanks to locals finally having enough and decided to stand up for themselves. The Daily Mail reports that organizers of the British Bangladeshi Cultural Academy have announced they are cancelling the monstrous Islamic event after conservative groups promised to hold an event of their own, a citywide protest against Muslim migration. In the wake of Brexit, citizens are backing the EU referendum vote by uniting in demonstrations to utilize their rights to defy those calling for Sharia law. The Pine Mash Squad, a conservative organization who describes themselves as supporters of British values, and the South Coast Resistance have vowed to gather in protest against the uncapped immigration they voted against during Brexit. Social media posts encouraging demonstrators to join us to celebrate Brexit and an end to mass immigration have made rounds on the internet, causing the Muslim group to rethink its plans. Posts reading "No more refugees" have sent a warning to such organizations that Britons are no longer standing idly by while their government hands over the economy and land to migrants who demand Sharia law. We have considered the political situation and unrest in UK after leaving the EU, the rise of racist activity and comments around other cities around the country, and by en masse deciding to visit Southampton, Sheer Sattar, chairman of the BBC whined. We, the British Bangladeshi Cultural Academy with other organizations, have decided that for the good for all communities in our city it would be best if we cancel the huge gathering in the city park for Eid-al-Fitr prayer. Last year, hundreds of Muslims similarly filled the Birmingham park. In accordance with typical Islamic segregation and misogyny, the women are forced to pray behind the men, as Islam's Prophet Muhammad declared that their deficiency in mind and faith would render a man's prayer impotent if they are placed in front. While the useful idiots on the left argue that there is progress in catering to the medieval demands of the Muslim minority, they fail to see that gender segregation is just gender inequality with a religious twist. The special treatment Muslims require is not only mandatory of their faith but also a good way of forcing the non-Muslim majority to submit to Sharia law without even realizing it. In any country with a large Muslim majority, the religious minorities are given reservations at public parks to display their faith. In fact, many would find themselves arrested by the police or attacked by Muslim mobs. Yet Muslims comes to non-Muslim countries demanding the rights and special privilege they never afford religious minorities in their own countries. We have tolerated the intolerant for far too long, but fortunately, there are still those who are willing to rise up and retake their land and rights from invaders who seek to make it just as oppressed and barbaric as the lands from which they claim to have fled.